Character rigging can be overwhelming, yes. But in this video, I'm going to show you how easy it can be rigging your first ever character. So let's hit it. Hi there, my name is Can Erduman and I'm a freelance character artist working worldwide. In this video, we will cover all the fundamental steps in the rigging process by rigging a small tiny bee model provided by the one and only EJ Hassenfratz. And as always, if you want to follow along, be sure to download the project files in the link in the description below. Okay guys, let me quickly show what we are going to do. So we start nice and easy. We will rig this antenna where you can use the pivot to move it around, or you could even translate it. But the important thing where you will learn a lot is using the bend deformer here to transform the bend, and we will also use Espresso to quickly drive that. As you can see, it's not many objects, but it's going to be cool to have this. Next up, we can do something more traditional. As you can see, let me close this one. You have a spine and you have a joint chain that's going to be driven by controllers. So you do have this center of gravity where you can move the entire bee around, but you can also shift select those and then use this to make this funny kind of rotation going on. And independent of that, we always have this head moving around where you can rotate it and make it look happy and fly around. And lastly, we will have this minor joint chain of 4 joints going on, and we will there have this wing. So basically we have this controller where you can flap around here, and we have the same functionality as with the bend deformer like that, but we have more detail because we have a joint chain like this, and it can do an S shape, not just a C shape. So we will have this kind of thing going on while we flap this. So that will be very, very nice. So without further ado, let's open up a file. If you want to click along with me, open up bstart.c4d. And the first thing we're going to do is open this one up. And as you can see, lots of garbage going in there. We don't want that. So let's create, by clicking here, 4 null objects. And one thing that's really dangerous about null objects is that you have this tiny little dot you can still select. Do you see? So let's get rid of that first by selecting everything here with Shift and going to Object and selecting None. Now it's not selectable anymore and we can continue. Okay, now top one is going to be our root of the character. So if you want to copy the character or anything there, you will have this one, and it needs to sit down on 0 world axis. Let's take all those and put it in there so we are fine already. The next one is going to be CTL, which means controller. Now you can go up and down using the arrow keys and type in RIG for rig and PLY for polygon. So that way you have a nice structure going on. Everything is on 0, 0. And let's take in the B there. And we can rename it to SDS_mesh. So we have the B here. And now we can alt click on the subdivision surface. And that way everything that's in there is instantly smoothed. So we will have this one as a global switch for everything. So it's clear once you open up the polygon, there's a subdivision surface, and just one, not 1,000. Okay, let's continue. Let's select everything there, go to basic, and now we will make this a little bit more beautiful and more color coded. So first things first, you can go to icon here and load preset. This gives you lots of funky stuff. And until you do a goat, I urge you to do this circle, please, or the star. But those two are the only ones I use. I don't know why there are some weird stuff happening here. But let's do those and click on display color. So the display color is actually driving the icon color. So it's here. So let's switch that up to automatic. And as you can see, now everything is green. So let's start selecting. So the B is yellow. We will have something yellowish. I tend to do 25-degree steps. So this is going to be green. Now let's do a red one so no one touches the rig. And that can be, I don't know, 175, 100%. And we already got the infrastructure going on. So let's also create some layers. And as you guessed right, let's click once for the B and CTL layer, another one for the rig layer, and the last one is going to be the PLY layer. So let's rename this B, rig, and you guessed right, PLY. Let's select those and put it in there, and we can middle mouse button click there and instantly drag this down there. So we can lock it or hide it if we need it. The rig layer is going to be in the rig layer, and the B layer is going to be in the B layer or the CTL layer. Okay, now let's ease into the rigging process slowly and easy. We will show you how to rig an antenna. So we will first set up a simple bend deformer based rig, and then the key is to make the animation process more easy by creating a selectable controller in the viewport that then drives the bend sliders without having to dig through the entire hierarchy. So we will have this one fancy controller doing all the work. That way, the animator has access to everything and can't break anything. And that's mainly your main task. Prevent the animator from breaking your rig. Okay, let's start by getting to the L antenna and drag it to the rig. And let's temporarily hide the rest so we can focus on the antenna. And as you can see, the axis is already pretty nice. So let's bring in the bend. Hold down Shift and press C to get up the commander, type in bend. And now, as a quick tip, hold down Shift and Enter, and the bend will be positioned right under the antenna and in the right space. Let's check out the bend. It looks great and awesome, and it's looking weird. Come on, cinema, you can do better than that. The axis was X plus. So let's do X plus here, and let's fit to parent again. And yay, he looks happy. Looking good, right? No, it doesn't look good. It looks really strange. Do you see that kind of hiccup in the center? That's because the bend is stretching weirdly. You can get rid of this by pressing keep length. And that way it looks great. Still not 100% great because let's move this one down and go here and move it downwards also, because I don't want the sphere to be deformed. So let's squeeze that a bit more, and maybe to have even numbers, let's say it's 25, 2.5, I mean 2.5. So it's nice and clear everywhere and deforms well. And as you can see, I can move this around and also have this angle going on. So next up, we need the controller, right? So we will do exactly the same. We will go to the antenna, press Shift C and type in N side. Don't forget to hold down Shift and Enter. That way the N side is also there, as you can see. And always try to check the axis when you create something. That way you don't have to re-record the tutorial so often. So here's the stuff going on, and let's get to the object mode and shrink it. And you see it's still oriented pretty nicely. Just the axis is wrong, so ZY will do. Let's move it like that. Looks really nice. Select the N side, hit Enter, and rename it L antenna underscore CTL. Let's move it out of there. And now we're going to press C, which will collapse it and make it editable. So it's an ordinary spline, not a generator. That way we can press Ctrl A to select everything and move it outwards. So why would you want to move it outwards? Because we are animator friendly guys, us riggers, I mean. That way the animator can easily select it. Let me quickly make an undo so I can show you better. That way you can't have access to the controller, or the animator doesn't even know it's existing, and that would result in him not touching it or doing a bad job animating it, or even taking longer to animate it. So let's push it upwards again and go back to object mode. And as you can see, because we just moved the points, not the object axis is still here. So we could also go over here, something like that, and the axis is still here. And you could click here to select this one. But of course, this one is more nice. So next up is color coding while we are at the controller. And as before with the layers, we go to Basic, Display Color. That way it's displayed in the Display Color section. Let's go to Automatic, 90, 100, 100. And one thing to remind you once more, as you can see, it's the left one on the right side. This is because the bee can face into any direction during the animation. So any directions regarding the left or the right side, it's always from the bee view. So this is always the right side and this is always the left side. Always look over the shoulder of your bees for that. So we do have this controller, and now we're going to continue by creating new user data, which then will drive the bend, right? Right. So here's this beautiful button called user data. Let's click it and let's go to manage user data. That way we have this new fancy colorful menu where you can press add data. This adds new data. And as you can see, you can do different things. Let's first type in strength for the strength of the bend, because this is going to be the bend strength, obviously. So let's continue by selecting float slider, and we will have degree. Now go to -90 and 90. And here you can see the result. This is not just an example. This is setting up the default value. So I tend to use this to just take a look at how the slider will look like, but also how the default value will be. So let's copy and paste and rename this angle. Angle, not angel. Oh my God. Okay. So we do have the user data here. And as you can see, it's identical here. Strength, angle, degree, degree. Strength, angle, degree, degree. Easy peasy. Now let's connect the bend deformer to the controller. Let's Shift-C and type in Express. So let's drag the manager out of the way and drop in the stuff here. Oh, let me show you something. Let's go here, and as you've seen, I can simply drag in the objects. I would say that you already know this, but I will show you anyways. So we can click on the output and go just down to the user data and select strength. This is the old, not so fancy way. The new way I want to show you is just go to the object and then drag in the stuff you want to have. For some reason, it was not visible. Now it is. Let's click the band. Let's do strength and angle, and Control Shift double clicking will optimize the node so it's not looking weird. So let's connect those and close this, hopefully for a long time, because 29 interface design sucks now. So old already, but Express is very powerful, so I don't complain at all. It's nice to work with, but it's a bit clunky. I hope Maxon gets up with a new interface design for that, or the C nodes get some rigging love. Okay, we do now have the antenna CTL. which can do now wonderful things. But as you can see, this kind of bend is a bit weird, that we can't control this anymore, right? So I would like to show you one more interesting thing, because it's really important and really cool. What we could do is move this antenna down there, and then we can drag it around. The bad side of it is that it's always attached to this, and we don't want it, right? I took you to the long process of creating all those things here, and I don't want you to break it up already. So one thing we're going to do, or I'm going to show you, is constraints. Let's check once more that the axes are aligned. This is super important. And now let's talk about constraints. First, I would like you to press Alt plus G. This will create a new parent null above that with the same axis orientation. Let's rename this L antenna underscore CNST for constraint. Those are not industry standard names. Those are my names. You can do, of course, you can also name it banana or, I don't know, pineapple juice. Now let's click on this one and click on that one. So we have the constraint null selected and the driver null, which is the CTL null. Now Shift C again, type in add transform constraint. Hit enter. As you can see on the constraint null now is a new pin icon, which is a constraint. And all the constraint does is it takes this kind of numbers here, which are the coordinates, and puts them in there. And the fun part is that we have a hierarchy connection without actually having to move those two objects into one hierarchy. So it can be completely independent, and we have our system with the CTL and RIC and PLY nulls in place. And this is being achieved by transforming the world coordinates, not the local ones. So we do have the object space based on the nulls here, and we have the world space. Let me prepare something just a second. So if we, for example, check this out in the coordinate manager and set this to world. Now take a closer look. I will move this closer so you can see the difference more easy. Here's the antenna constraint. Those are the world coordinates. Those are the local coordinates of the local coordinate system. And if I click this, you see, there is no difference, but there's a difference and it's ignored. So what the constraint does mathematically is copy the world space matrices to a new object from the driver object. So this is what's happening in there. So we have this target over here. If you click on transform and you see position, rotation and scale is forwarded from this object onto this object. So basically, if you want to have this in one sentence, it's pinning object A to object B. Basically, you put it into the target here. Long story short. Okay, let's get back to here. And now I can easily drive this one. And as you can see, this is a weird position for a bend. I would then, now because it's constrained, I can move this around and rotate it. I would now go so far and move this into a nice position. And that way I can have it like that now. The next thing I'm going to do is freeze coordinates. That way I can set the current position and rotation and scale to be the origin of the object. So in this position, no matter how it is, it will be zeroed out. So once you click freeze all, you will be out of any problems when you have a character and need to reposition him to the default pose. So with the antenna being finished officially, I would like to ask you to exercise it so everything is falling in place in your brain. Let's do the feet the same way we did the antenna. So you can rewind and do it step by step or retry by yourself, as I will do it now. And done. So that was really fast. We got the feed now. You can load up this file or do it by yourself if you think you already got the system, how it works. See, rigging isn't so bad, right? If you like the topic, be sure to like and subscribe. Maxon did a really good job with the auto weights so far. And let me just show you and you will see. So let's deselect the subdivision surface and let's get rid of too much information here. Everything we don't need, let's hide that. And we just got the bee body. Okay, so let's get over here to character, where all the character stuff is happening. And there we have this joint tool where we create the joints. We can align the joints later on if they got weird or something. Later in this tutorial, we will mirror this. So we have the right side controllers or the left side controllers, to be more precise, mirrored over the right side. And if you want to create just a single joint, for example, you can use this. And the skin deformer is pretty important later on. Okay, let's grab the joint tool. And as you can see, the default left mouse button is just moving the joints. Control clicking is drawing new joints. This is super important. And shift clicking is splitting the joints. Okay, let's get to the side view and activate snapping. Let's check out if the snapping is correct. Of course, it is not. So let's snap edges and points with auto snap. So this will be a 2D snap because I'm in an orthographical view. So the first joint we are going to create is going to be the root joint or the center of gravity. For us humans, it's the hips because mostly our body is rotating around the hips somewhere. For the bee flying around, it's a different story. So I would say something like this. Control clicking over here. Then I would say let's control click over here so you also see the shift functionality. And now we're going to press shift, hold down shift and leave this edge loop free, leave this edge loop free and click here. And as you can see, that's created a new one. You can even drag this somewhere like that and then have it here. I'm doing this last one a bit offset because I want the sting to have its own thing. And naturally, those null joints without any child, so this one, won't be weighted. You always have to have a child here, so you got this kind of length and vector for the weighting. Let's disable that one. And oh no, let's keep that one. And let's get back to the joint tool. And now we will deselect everything here and create another joint, the head. And now let's create another joint being here and the tip being at the end. So this is going to be our head, JNT 0 and head, JNT end or tip. So that's the tip of the head. Let's middle mouse button click those joints and go to basic again, and with name type in spine JNT, hit enter, and with those selected hit Shift C again and write naming tool. And now we're going to do something really amazing. Write into the replace column underscore JNT, hit tab once, write the same, and then underscore string number. And this will, once you click replace name, add the numbers based on the hierarchy. So what we did manually here, we did automatically here. Okay. Now let's select the root joint and rotate it. As you can see, that's pretty good. And with the whole hierarchy And if you select per object transform, you see the beautiful arcs we can create. But right now, only the joints are moving, so we need to attach them to bind the mesh to the joints. Let's do that now. First, we select all the joints we have here. Then we shift-click in the viewport to select the geometry we want to bind. So joints and geometry. Then we Shift-C again and type in bind and hit enter. Now we got in the body 2 new things. First, a new deformer, which is the skin deformer. We already knew that from here, skin deformer. And we got a weighting tag. Some years ago, you still had to do that manually, and now it's automated. So what the weighting tag is, has all the weighting information for each joint. And the skin is looking for the tag and deforming it. There's lots of options here. We don't go so much into details. But the important thing is, if I middle mouse button click on the joints now and deform it, we have to disable the snapping. You see already the mesh is following, and I can already do this funky cool bee sting animation, and also do a bit of squash and stretch. You always have to per object transform activated. I can also go into here and have it look around. Okay, so what we now did was just binding everything, and now it's still working, but for an animator, again, it would be a pain to manually select this. So we will now create the control objects, and this will be our trusty end side again. So let's get to this end side and drag it to the root coordinates and just zero it out, scale it down so it's a bit bigger. You can rename it COG_CTL for controller. Now we can copy this and paste it. If this doesn't work, this is a super cool tip. I would urge you to use it in interface. When you have the preferences, Control E, you can set this paste objects as child. You can set this to standard. And that way, when you select something and you paste something, it's a child. So now we can control click everything here and right click on these tiny arrows to reset. And then we got that. And now we can use the scale tool to just scale it down the way we would want it. The last one we don't need because, as I mentioned, it doesn't have any weight. So that's already pretty cool. Now we can go over here, hit enter again, and press Control C, Control V. And that's pretty much it. So we have this one renamed. Let's drag it out there and redo the hierarchy. So it's the identical hierarchy. And now we will middle mouse button click to select the children, Shift C, type in naming tool, and we will replace _JNT with _CTL. So now we got the control objects and the joint objects. The head is still missing, so we just copy paste our spine over to the head, type in head CTL 0. And speaking of 0, let's zero that out again. And it should be somewhere here, not visible, as with the bent deformers. Let's press C, go to point mode and press Control A to select everything. And now we can drag it out. And that way we create one, let's go back to model mode, one control object at the axis over here and the selection object or the shape over here. So we can move this around. Let's make this also a child of a spine. And I wanted to rename it to COGCTL. And now we can also move that downwards. And now hit middle mouse button to select everything here and hit freeze all. That way, if we want to go back to the position, we just zero it out. And as you can see, nothing happens because we need the constraints again. So we are pinning now the joints to the control objects. So select the driver, then the driven, hit Shift C again, and type in transform constraint. Now it's super important to deselect everything before we select the next one. So head 0 to head 0, Shift C, enter, deselect. Spine 1, Shift C, enter, deselect. Spine 2, Shift C, enter, deselect. And last but not least, that one and deselect. So every joint instead of the tip. Okay, this one needs to be tip also. Extra points for you if you did this before me. Now it should work. So I can select those 4 joints, go to rotate mode and rotate this around. So here we go. We are with the control objects moving the joints that move the geometry. Isn't that amazing? And we also can have the head move around. While everything moves fine now, let's clean up everything, okay? So what we will ignore now is the antenna stuff here, because our master nulls, which are the modular rigging approach, will help us mirror those. So we can just click on them and then mirror everything right away. But what we can do already to clean up is the B head, because right now it's not moving along. So let's select the head controller, press this null object now, and move it downwards to the B head null, which we already provided, but it's in a different space. So we will constrain this now and shift select to the head. And I would like to show you something new. Under character, I already told you that the constraints are managed to be here. So what I have is an add transform constraint over here. So if I let go of it, it snaps to here. Let me do an undo so you see it once more. It snaps over and the constraint is added with the head controller 0 being selected as a target. So let's rename this to be head CNST. So that means it's a constraint. And let's drag it here. So the whole head is inside the new head null. Let's delete that one. And now we can go to the front and have it look around, being super nice. And lastly, we need to clean up the root of the spine. So it's also a master. So we simply go up here, check out this thing and rename it. Spine _ master. Let's middle mouse button click again to select the whole hierarchy, including the joints. And we go to basic, icon color, display color, under here and go to automatic. We type in 45, hit tab and 100. So everything in the center will be yellow, even the joints. Now select the COG and here at U, type in 175. And with this beautiful color, the animator instantly knows where the COG is and how to move the character around. Always try to be nice to your animator colleagues. Are you getting past the fear of rigging? I hope so. If you want to hear more about Cinema 4D and rigging, be sure to check out Cinema 4D Ascent, taught by EJ Haas and friends, over at schoolofmotion.com. There you will be learning more about rigging and animation. Okay guys, we're close to the finish line, so let's wrap it up and create the wings, okay? With the wings, we do have a little bit more influence because the band was just a C shape going into one direction. With the joints, we can do more stuff that's quite interesting. So let's get started by unwrapping this, opening it up. Let's hide everything we don't need and we go to the wing and let's move it up to the rig. we will create a new null object at 0 space and rename this left wing MSTR for master. And let's drop in the poly object in there. Okay, with that, we can now hide everything we don't need and get rid of this. And we are left with this beautiful wing piece we will rig now. Let's create the joint chain that will move the wing. So we will first add the snapping and then configure it to be 3D snap, point and edge. So we can snap it in 3D space directly onto the wing. And now we will go to character and joint tool. This is the other way I'm showing you also, just to be sure. And over here on modifiers, you can control click to draw new joints. And now we will control click over here and then over here. Now, one thing I would like to add, if you imagine this is an arm, for example, and it's sitting not here, but there. And this is the elbow. And those two edges rotate around the lower arm and the upper arm. Here is no information that will hold the volume for the elbow. So the elbow will lose all its volume and deform not very well. So that way it's always safer to have the joint sitting on an edge or a vertex even directly. We would then add additional edge loops to create a beautiful curvature when the joint is bended. So with that being said, let's add one here and one here, here and here. So we do have the giant ones over there for the curvature and those for the counter movement when the flap is happening, right? Okay. Next thing I'm going to do when I'm creating joints, I will check the axis orientation and this looks really nice. Let's go into here and as you can see what happened there. This is a good thing to say, hey, the snapping not probably the best. So let's turn it off and go back to character and join tool and just make it like that. So it's in the center line. I'll just try to fix it. Sorry for that, but that's a good example of how you mess up your rigs, guys. Okay, let's once more enable snapping and now change to auto snap, which will be a 2D snapping. So I can move this around and snap it. What happened to those joints? Okay, so we are back in business officially. Let's recheck the axis. They look good. I'm also rechecking those rotation numbers, so they're not too far apart. That looks good from the other side. So the joints are perfectly inside the geometry, inside the volume, right? Okay, let's also get this and put it into the master. That way we have it under control. And I always sort it like from driver to driven. So it's first is the controller, then the joints, and then last but not least, the geometry that will be rendered. Okay, as you can see, the controller is missing. So what beautiful object should we know as a controller? Of course, the inside, right? So let's get it there and let's put it under joint number 0. And let's right click on those arrows again so we can zero that out. And we will scale it down again and to put it on top here. Now we can change the projection plane of the primitive. And to keep things simple, let's switch to the orthographical view, top view. Let's turn off the snapping, also known as bone crusher. Same procedure as last. I would like to press C to collapse that and get into point mode. So we got editable mesh here and we can just delete the vertices we don't want anymore. And last but not least, I will uncheck close spline. That way it will look like that. If it's looking weird or so, just click on here on any vertex and try point order and set first point. This will change the point order. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4. And before it was 1, 2, 3, 4. That's how it's done. Or it's the other way around, 0, 1, 2, 3. But in the end, you should end up with that one. Let's shift select all the points and move them up here. We can also, if we want to have really nice, beautiful wing controllers, we can sculpt them to be really awesome. So in object mode, you see the axis remained where it belongs, and it's exactly the same from this joint. Great. Let's select this joint and press Alt plus G. This will create a new null on top of it and rename this left wing CNST for constraint. This will be left wing CTL, and this will be left wing JNT. Now we can press Ctrl A to select everything here, press copy, and now we will do down arrow, paste, down arrow, paste, down arrow, paste, down arrow, paste, down arrow, paste. Just showing you different approaches to renaming. And with that selected, we will go back to our naming tool and say underscore JNT, underscore JNT, underscore string N. And this will add our numbers. And the last one is going to be the tip, as always. So that's pretty much the nomenclature of Autodesk Maya, which is also used a lot for character stuff. So that won't disturb any character animators coming from Maya. Now we select the left wing constraint and control select the left wing CTL. Shift plus C again and type in add transform constraint and hit enter. Now we got that and we got our nice controller going on. Let's middle mouse button, select the entire hierarchy, go to coordinates, and for safety issues, I would like to freeze all. So everything is frozen and set to this position. Okay, hang on, I will show you something really cool. So let's select the root joint here and right click and go to rigging tags, and then we use the pose morph. So the pose morph morphs between two different poses. That can be a position, it can be a point. So that would be the classic Autodesk Maya side effects Houdini blend shape or Blender shape keys. Blender's free, did you know? Anyways, we don't use the points. We will just use the rotation for the joints. And this is a special for Cinema because the other applications don't do that. So let's click on rotation now. And this, my friends, is a beautiful bug Maxon didn't fix. So let's return to basic and we are back in our menu. As you can see, this can be super powerful if you can morph UVs, for example, or change user data, change maps, etc., etc. This is all cool, but not of interest for us. We will check hierarchy. So this root joint and this pose morph at the root will check the rotation between two poses for the whole hierarchy. So let's get into the tag and take a look at this. So we got the base pose. This is what's now. So this is the zeroed out straight thing we had when we created the pose morph. So it's the base pose upon creation of the tag, right? And this is the first pose we're doing. And one thing I would like to show you before we get too far into that, let's rotate this quick and get back into the pose morph. And now when I'm using the strength dial, it rotates, right? So that's how it's done. And then we have an edit mode where you can just pose the joints into the position you want. And we have an animation mode where you just have access to the power of the pose or how much it is morphed from base pose to the active new pose. You can also animate this, and this is mainly the reason why I'm showing you this, because it's super powerful. You can do anything there. Remember, anything that's here, you instantly can do that. Okay, now let's delete this one by selecting it and hitting Del. And now click on this white, beautiful button to add a new one. We will rename this to Flapping 01 and go to the side view here. Now it's a bit important on what we select. So let's select those two. Those will do the major up and down flapping. Let's select this one also. And as you can see, this will be our flapping. So we have 0, 1, and 2 doing this flap. And we can now move this up and down. Okay, let's create a new one. Rename it Flapping 02. And let's select those 3 and move it also like that. So that's it already. Wasn't that quick? And now you can see you can just show one of those, but in animation mode, you can actually see that this works really good. And another thing that's really cool is, since Cinema does know what 100% plus is, it also knows what minus 100% is. So we already have both directions. We do have our beautiful left wing CTL. I just saw I forgot to change the color. So we will go to icon again, display color, and made it automatically being 90 degree in hue and saturation 100%. Now let's switch to the top view and select the controller. Now go to user data and manage user data. And the same procedure as the last time. Let's add some data. We will have our float slider and rename it to flap1 and %. This is far more easy than the last time because the pose morph works with %, right? So again, we do have minus 100 and 100%. And now let's change to 4 views again. With the left wing controller selected, hit Shift-C and write Espresso again. And now we will connect everything together as we did with the bent deformer, right? Control-Shift, double-click it, so it's automated here. And now we will drag this pose morph into here. In animation mode, this is super important, we will drag flapping 01 and flapping 02 and optimize it. Now let's connect both of them and go to the 3D view. Let's check out what happens. Looks great. Wick, wick, wick. And looks great too. Okay, now we can simply middle mouse button click the hierarchy and shift click the polygon object and go to character and to bind. As you can see, now it's binded and I can flap the wings. Isn't that amazing? Hello, hello. Great. Okay, guys, now we will finish everything up and mirror our controllers and whole rigs from left side to the right side. So let's go. We do have those modular master nulls here, as you noticed. And now we will shift middle mouse button, select the whole hierarchy, go to the character menu and go to the mirror tool. Now that's a special tool over here, since you have a lot of options, and it's not just for mirroring joints, it can mirror everything. So let's first think about the direction. We will go to world axis. Let me get the world axis also, so you can see this axis here, this orientation, and the coordinates is going to be world also, and the mirror axis is going to be X. So the YZ means that this could be a mirror plane going here. So it will be from plus to minus, from this side over to this side. For the options, we will go and clone it. So we got new objects. We include all the links. We will freeze the coordinates. And we will do the points, the weights, and the positions. And instead of the axis, we will also do the YZ plane, mirror plane. For the naming, we will replace, I think that could be different on your side, L underscore with R underscore. So we will rename those automatically. Let's go to Tool, check Children, and hit Mirror. And as you can see, everything is there already. We still got the left side selected, so let's use this and drag it upwards to here. And let go, so we got left and right separated. All right, so far so good. Everything seems to be working. I left on the wings and the right legs intentionally, so we can check out if this fits. As you can see, this fits perfectly, and we can delete the antenna, for example, or the right legs. Okay. So far, so good. Now, first, let's sort everything out. We will go to the search bar here and search for our beautiful, beautiful naming conventions. Underscore CTL. We will select everything, go to layers, and right-click on the B layer and add objects to the layer. That way, everything is in this beautiful color. Now we will change this to JNT and select everything here. It's obviously the two wings plus the spine. We will add this to the rig also by right-clicking and going to add objects to layer. And as you can see, the joints aren't yet colorized, so I hit display color here and do our trick with 90, 190 again, 90 hue, 100 saturation, so they are green, and those are going to be red. So it's again display color, and here we have this bright red. Okay, that's good. What is else there? We got all those CTL controllers, and right now when we move our B, the rest of the rigs are stuck, so we need to connect that. So let's first filter again, so to underscore CTL, and select all our controllers. And now we will take one of those, or we can hit S and make it visible and drag this into our super cool empty CTL null. So we got everything here. Okay, simple things first. We will rotate the head, and as you can see, the antennas don't go along. So let's shift select in the viewport here and also take the front legs and drag that to the head. And now when we do some head banging, you see it rocks. So far, so good. We can redo that with the first row of legs. We will simply drag this to the COG. We can do that with the second row of legs also, and the third row of legs is going to be in spine 1, which is here. So that way we can move this one, that one, and this one. Oh, I made a mistake. Those belong to the head. Sorry. So the front legs are in the head. We got everything here, and those move along with that. So the wings seem to miss. So we got left and right wing here. We will put them into the COG also. Okay, so that's mainly it. Let's drag everything away. And when the screen is empty, we were successful. So we need to refreeze everything. But before we do that, there's one important thing that's missing here. Besides those being red, the master controller is missing. So let's create once more the end side and rename it master_CTL. We will put this in the root of the CTL null and then scale it down. And again, under object, you can change the plane where it's projected, and you make it like that. So it's selectable there. And this controller is attached to a spline perhaps, or is moved around in the scene if you want to move the entirely of the character. But mostly it will remain on 000, and we will take the COG and let the bee fly. In addition to that, let's control drag once down and duplicate it. And this is going to be our layout controller. So this one gives us an additional access to manipulate the character. For example, if it's attached to a car or we have a walk cycle and it needs to move forward. So we will have this like that. And they also have a special color, which is neither of the others. So they always know where it is. So let's change the icon color again to display color, the display color again to automatic, and let's select something like that. For the layout controller, we will do the same. So it's icon color, display color, automatic. And I will do something that's really orangey. And let's drag the COG under that. Now with everything being in place, we just select the entire hierarchy, go to the coordinates again, and hit freeze all. And we now can control select all the right controllers here, go to basic again and drag the hue slider to 0. So we got a nice red. And now we got the completely correct color coding for left and right, spine, and the master controllers. Those controllers are still missing. We can drag that upwards so we can easily manipulate them in the layer system here. So we can hide them, for example. The same, let's collapse this. The same will happen for the rig, but let's first sort out all the constraint nulls. So I'm unwrapping, or I'm unfolding the first layer here. So this is always constrained. I'm control selecting everything, and this comes into the polygon folder. Now we take the legs, for example, and put it to the leg folder. So it's in a sub null there, so to say. The wings come here and the antenna gets to the body. Okay, so far so good. I seem to miss the right antenna. So where is it? Here it is. It comes to here. Okay, now we can do a simple one and middle mouse button click all the polygon stuff inside the folder. And now we drag this to the polygon folder. And that's nearly it. Control Shift click on polygon to check. And our skin and bends, for example, could also be in the rig section. So we can simply control click on everything that's this deformer color and make it a part of being the rig layer. So animators can't destroy the rig so easily. So with the wings, we can, okay, the wing constraint needs to be in the rig also, so it keeps to be in the rig. The right wing comes down to here. Sorry about that, that was a mistake. So the left wing also. And we still got the constraints. Those are empty, and now we can delete the master files and recheck the feet, which are all in place. Okay, let's collapse this and also check this out. Okay, that's good. And I think we're done. So we can now hide the rig. Everything should be away. Okay, some minor things are here with the constraint stuff still being a poly. So let's middle mouse button, click on the rig and assign it to the rig layer. That way everything in there is red from the layer color and will be hidden. And don't forget to lock the rig and PLY layers, also hide them. And now you have this superb filtering of layers where you can just select all those controllers. And one way to manage selection of controllers is the selection object. So let's Shift-C again and write in selection. And this one with the arrow downwards is the selection object. We can now put it down there. And this one is really interesting because it stores selections. So what I do, I put it into the CTL or maybe into the B folder. So it's on front. I will just rename it to select all. And that way you can simply double click on that icon. This sounds a bit stupid because it's just selecting all, but when you are in the animation process, this is super important. Now we can control drag it downwards and type in select wings. And we will delete everything except the left and right wing, for example. So that would make more sense for an animator to click. Just double click here for the wings, double click here for everything. Yeah, and that's mainly it. That's our beautiful, super cool flapping. And we can now send it to the animation department and they can animate it easily. Or you animate it yourself. Have fun. I hope this tutorial helped you realize that while rigging can be very difficult or even complicated, at the end of the day, a rig is a simple setup that helps you animate an object more easy. So if you animate a lot, rigging is an important skill to learn. If you want to learn more about rigging, be sure to give us a like or subscribe. I'm also happy to answer any questions or comments if you put them down below. Bye bye, see you next time!